It's not just the screening, it's really also the experience of us talking, being in an open panel, and that's what I would love to open with. So here, okay. Yes. So the topic is unmasking abuse, breaking the silence. And what I really want to know is what comes for you, what came for you if you saw the last episode when it comes to red flags. And is there any, or if you didn't see the documentary, is there any red flag you feel like it's not enough spoken about you as an expert, you as somebody who experienced it and would love to bring more light and awareness to that type of red flag in relationships? And you're invited to unmute yourself. And I saw
Something came up for me, Anastasia, was that sixth formers, I think fifth formers, it would be okay. So 16-year-old onwards. But I think that not necessarily your film, but something around your film. Your film could be like the basis of what you would be created, but it would be amazing to teach young boys and girls what red flags are, what things are right and what things are wrong, what things are natural and what things aren't, what one would deem acceptable and what one wouldn't. And I don't think that certainly a lot of young teenagers have a clue. They've all watched far too much pornography. They've all watched far too much. And when I say pornography, I mean hardcore, horrible stuff that's been freely available to them because of the internet. And they can write any date they like and they just get no checks and they're in. We had this problem at Ben's school and he was 11 and 12. And they had to do one of these search your phone, search your email. And if porn was found, they were taken off them. So that was sufficient to kind of stop the rot, as it were. But I think that boys and girls need to know what is normal. Like, it is not normal to expect your partner to want to sleep with another woman or another man, right? They need to know that because they've seen so much of it. And I just think we need to stop normalizing what goes on in adult porn world and crazy world and bring it back down to what is normal per se for relationships. That's just something I really felt from watching the red flags. I found that it was really, there were opportunities there that I think that something diluted, something maybe not quite as in your face because we don't want to plant seeds, but we do need to be able to make sure that they're not germinated, if that makes sense.
So well, thank you for that. That's a great idea of creating more awareness. And it made me thinking about, do you have an idea in your mind of like a course for those adolescents showing, like some kind of visual form. And like you mentioned, not to give them an ideas, but to make sure they're aware. So I think there is some border boundary and how to show it in a way that children actually are informed. And can we control what happens next? That's another thing. There are things we can control, like doing the course, yes. But I saw Stephen. What came to you? Also, Paulette, you're invited to share more. We are holding this space before we start with the film, because I love using your energy, your ideas, and just brainstorming on, I feel like there's this divine presence of all of us. Like, yes, most of us are part of the expose, and now we're having this chat about how to change the system and what's needed. So every idea is precious. So please share, Stephen.
Well, thank you so much. One of the ideas that come forward is that, the red flags are a little bit of a challenge, because if you grow up in an environment where those red flags exist in your everyday life, then you're not going to see them as red flags. It's going to be normalized for you already that, abusive behavior, whether it be verbal or emotional or financial, there will be things that can happen that will allow you to be in a relationship like this in the future, where that can happen again. And so, there's a subtle switch that needs to occur for people, which is to realize that they're worthy, they are worthy, and they're lovable, and they're deserving of being treated kind. And most importantly, I think the best thing that can be taught to young people and to others is that to trust yourself, trust the way that you feel, and to be able to trust that inner voice, and know when something doesn't feel right, or know when something is crossing that line, because we're all, every one of us are living a life, and this life is precious. And there will be things that happen in this life that will cause us to feel bad, that will cause a response. And I think that if we can teach emotional resilience, that, not, yes, to guard as much as we can, but the problem is with the guard is that, all of the rules that we make, all of the processes we make, there are workarounds around that. And it's the emotional maturity, it's the emotional intelligence that will help people navigate that, so they're not caught by that trap. So, my hope is that people can realize that, you know, to trust themselves, to know how to set boundaries, to realize that how they feel is okay. And if they're feeling bad, understand that, okay, what can you do to protect yourself from that? What boundary can be set, or what way can you grow to protect yourself better? So, that would be my response to this: is the red flags. We can talk about them, and it's nice for people to know what a red flag is. But most importantly, I think it's for people to realize that they're worthy of being treated kindly. They're worthy of being treated with love and respect. And if they feel that that's violated, then, to become curious and to learn, okay, how do I want to be treated, and how can I grow in this area? And I guess the biggest thing is to realize that we're worthy of being treated better, because a lot of times people will be in that relationship, and they will allow someone to treat them poorly. And so that would be the first question, that I'd teach them to ask themselves, is what is it that I believe about myself that allows somebody to treat me this way, and for me to think it's okay? And if you can answer that question, I think it'll offer a little bit of growth for a person. So thank you so much.
And can you repeat your question? What it is? Mm-hmm.
So the question is when somebody does something that makes you feel really bad, and you're tolerating it, the question is what is it that I believe about myself that allows me to view this behavior as acceptable, to view this behavior as okay, because it's not, and that's where a boundary needs to be set.
And having that realization, that space you beautifully, Stephen, shared, that what does it make you to tolerate it and decide this is what I'm putting up with, versus coming from that different space and taking whatever it is for you, a breath, and to feel your feet, and okay, this is the space for my boundary here. That's why I paid for therapy. Now it's worth it. I can apply it, whatever it is. But I saw two hands, and thank you, Stephen. Thank you. I'm also glad you joined us yesterday live on LinkedIn and for sharing your thoughts. Thank you about consciousness. Ladies, I think Joanna was first, and then Asta, but who was first? Tell me.
I think I was. It doesn't matter. I don't mind going next. For me, I didn't see the red flag message, but for me, I thought I was raised in a very healthy way, and just had my mum. I didn't have a dad. And it's only now at 52 that I've come to realize that possibly my mum, who I saw as a very loving, we had a very safe environment, is potentially a covert narcissist. So I've been raised in a way that that's become my normal. And I guess what I wanted to kind of just put here is, I don't know how you can get this message. What I'm asking is, how can we get the message out to people that are, because there's lots of communication always about red flags, but it wasn't something that I still resonated with because I couldn't relate to it being a red flag. So I'm in this abusive relationship, had absolutely no idea. Red flags are being spoken about all over the world, but I still didn't get it. So it's, how do you communicate to resonate in a way that people really do start to understand that what's going on here isn't right? Because to be honest, I didn't realize they were red flags and it was abuse until I was out of the relationship. I had no idea when I was in it, because it's little by little that these things happen. It's very subtle. It starts off adoration. My type of relationship was extreme adoration, and as having an absent father, I think it was attractive to me. It was my pull. And then suddenly, these things start shifting and changing. And all I was doing was trying to adapt to make the relationship healthy, but I wasn't able to see, hear, or understand anybody's message. And actually, anyone around me wasn't aware that it was abuse either. It's just afterwards now. And I know there's been a lot more exposure more recently, but my question is, how do we get to communicate in a way that people get to see this message that's really very, very important, and saving a lot of time, a lot of lives in some people's situations, children that are in the home that are seeing stuff that we're then repeating patterns because we've left them in that relationship, us in the relationship way too long. And I don't know the answer. It's just, that's something only from my personal experience. There was nothing I could see in the relationship. It was afterwards that it all became more to light.
And you have been on such a beautiful journey together with me and many others. Joanne is one of Expose participants, and I just wanted to introduce you, and so many more things, beautiful things. But thank you for sharing and leaving us with this question, because I think that this a question to hold space for, how to communicate it, that people truly understand it. Because the understanding is in the levels that, like you said, you might see it, doesn't mean the next time somebody asks you for something that you are going to say no, just because you feel no in your body.
Yeah, and I guess it comes back to the point, and I can only speak from myself, but I'm looking, obviously, as we're talking, of people acknowledging, relating to maybe what I'm saying is, it's that even if somebody had said this isn't right, it's still doesn't, it takes so long to process it and to understand, and to be able to make, where I think it goes back to the lovely gentleman's point, when you don't have the self-worth, self-respect, self-esteem, you weren't raised in that way, you don't know that that's not what you do. It's really difficult, because having come through it and out the other side 4.5 years, it's clear to me now. But I'm just thinking, for the people that are in the relationship, how do we make it so clear that it's not okay, all of this behavior, not just telling, because people may have tried to tell me, but I just couldn't see it, hear it. I just felt it. So maybe talking by feelings, are you feeling this way? That might be the way for people then to relate, versus that's not okay, because it's a lot of communication always. That's a red flag, that's a red flag. It's quite direct communication, but actually, if you are feeling this way, we can maybe associate easier if it comes from how somebody's feeling in the relationship. Oh, I do actually feel like that. Because I think when we're told something, it doesn't always kind of resonate.
That's a great question, and I really would like to jump in. Because I love what you're saying, and everybody, we kind of raising this question, how can we do it? Nobody done it for me when I was young, but from my young age, I was dreaming to become a fashion designer. I am the third generation of the dressmakers, my granddad, and then my mom. And all my life, I knew I will be a fashion designer, not just dressmaker, a fashion designer. And you know what I'm teaching now, and when I'm looking back, that's really guide me through all my life to understand was my biggest value. And I always ask, what is your biggest value in your life? And I think every child having some dream, well, I hope, and if they don't have it, maybe we need to dig deeper what they would find that dream. And when I got with my abusive husband, I started noticing before abuse of me, he was starting pushing my dream down. And that's actually got me faster reacting his negativity, even before he slapped me. I noticed with him, I will not get my dreams come true. Because all he would say, oh, you go to work, only be a little mouse, get your work, job, money, that's it. That's it. Why do you need this? Why do you need that? And I'm like, oh boy, no, 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 no. And more I started noticing what he don't value my values, my dreams. That's I noticed when he don't really value me at all. And I always, like when I was looking after my child after becoming a single mom, I always ask him, especially when the teenager, he was trying to go, some boys wants to go smoking or some boys wants to go drinking or something. He would be very pulled very easy to that side, and I thank you, Paulette, for talking about, the computers and the not computers games, like all those dirty things. He was a little bit pulled in that way as well, but I always was ask him, what is your bigger value? And I knew his biggest dream was to become a footballer, like worldwide footballer. And I was saying, okay, honey, if you ever will be arrested in any dirty videos watching, or like he knew Google everything, everybody see what you watch, and I ready early to explain for him, whatever you watch on computer, everybody will find one day. I don't know the truth, but he believed it, and I know now it is some truth. And that's actually guide him all his life, his big dream. So I would really, and now with my client helping, I always first asking, what is your values? If he is not with you in those values, see how much, and yes, I talk a lot about red flags, but yes, those red flags, I knew they're there. But when you love, it's a different view. You have this big goggly pinky glasses. Oh, it's just, But when I knew my values, I knew from that age, with him, I will not get what I want. And yes, as soon as I left him, my business grew. I become a businesswoman. I'm learning. And now I just back from my marriage, of my second marriage, and we are doing another business together. He's supporting me. And that was difference. And I really, really would say, ask what is your values from this age, no matter what age. And when they know what they want, and if somebody coming in not tolerating, it could be dreams of dancer to be or something. As we know, when we come together with some wrong partners, we straight away getting pushing down, because no right partner will want you, grow if they really want to push you down. And that was my biggest red flag, but I actually got it very fast. And that would be my answer, what I would suggest. And that's what I do for all my clients. What is your values? Thank you.
Thank you, Asta, for bringing this vibrancy to the space. And yeah, I feel like we are cooking a soup here, and everybody brings some ingredients, and I love how it all can, be a soup in some way, and it's tasty. And I mean, in this way, like it's all those parts of us are so important, and all of us add something what's somebody else who's listening right now, it actually can save their life somewhere. Like, yeah, like just what you said, Asta. And you
Can
said
I
it's so
just say, from a
yeah, go ahead.
child's perspective, it was perfectly acceptable and normal for me to eat my dinner on the floor with the dog. And my brothers saw that. And my mum couldn't look at me because I looked like my dad. And when they broke up, it was very nasty. And so the boys would deliberately, as long as she wasn't looking at me, I could sit at the table. But they
Yeah,
learned very quickly that
yeah,
if they sat opposite me, she would see me, and then I would have to be down from the table.
yeah.
And so I think that the thing that I want to really reiterate is it can
So,
be happening in your own home.
yeah,
Can you hear me?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
it can be happening in your own home with your siblings, and they are party to what's happening and not even understanding that they're party. They just see it as folly. They just see that as being fun, right? So it's so important that when we talk about values, we teach every single child on the planet about their self-worth and their fellow humans' self-worth. That's when life will change.
Yeah, that's that part which you started with, that it was fully acceptable for me to be in this situation, and who allowed that? That's that point of, yeah, going, not pointing fingers, but more going to educating parents too in the whole system of, okay, one thing is not wanting to do the parenting the way you been parent, but another thing is taking actually the conscious choice of doing some steps towards, whatever it is, therapy, consulting, speaking, because that's not going to change just by you saying, I don't want to be like my mother or father, because that's just going to, yeah, bring more of it. So, and what you brought up was also massive about how we need each other, how we learn from modeling and being in an environment. And it's the house, it's the school, it's the environment wherever we go. And there is so many factors can influence the way, what we call familiar. That's what Joanna mentioned, that how do I, at least that's how I perceive that, how do I change the fact that it feels more safe to stay than to leave, kind of, in a way. That because of, for me, the love was shown in a way which means this and this and this, then I can only like, I feel in a unconscious way. That's how the brain is wired. That's the conditioned. That's like a habit. That's like, when we grab anything, we don't think about it. It's just natural. So how do we unlearn that? Because it's not, it's not a quick fix. Those are the years of those neural pathways in our brain, and there is so much more. But which, in therapy discover, and the missing place, which Paulette mentioned a little also about it, is the support. I feel like the support, just having somebody there. And how are you feeling? Joanne said, like, just not judging, just, hey, do you need any help? Just being like that silent voice once a while, coming and offering, just being. Because from the ego's perspective, if somebody tells me, yeah, this is not good, you should leave, it's like, this is not making sense, because of, I feel actually familiar in this situation. I mean, I have been here for years now. This is my home. Like, if you're offering me help, then bring a therapy, bring people, because of, I'm not going to leave just because of, you say this is not, you're judging me. That's what I see. This feels unsafe, actually. I don't feel like, that's what came in my body too when I was in those multiple abusive relationships. So I also see Joanne and Stephen. Is that the order? Yes, please.
Thank you. It's such a this is wonderful conversation, and really happy to be here with everybody. I don't have people that I've ever been able to be in the same room with that have experienced what I've experienced. I've only had the support to kind of help me kind of after the relationship. But it's interesting because obviously with you know, the values I completely understand, and you know, where they're knocking the dreams, and but it doesn't resonate with me because I didn't know my value. I didn't know my values. So I can't relate to that at all on a personal level. And I was on the flip side of that. I could have had anything, I could have done anything. He was the opposite. It was this smothering love that I had that was the control, and then became the power, and then became the abuse. So he wasn't knocking anything at the start. I was on a pedestal. I was a young girl that for 35 years didn't have a dad, and I was looking for this protective security, this love. And he was giving it in inverted commas. And so he knows there what he's got to do to get me into this cycle. So it wasn't that there were values that one, as I say, I didn't know my values, and I've only just learned now at 52 that the thing that was repeating, I've had 3 relationships very similar, and it was way before that. It's not about the guy that I've just had 11 years of that situation with. I don't even talk about that because it's not him. It was before that, and before that, and before that. And actually, it was my youth, it was my childhood. And I think, so for me, I don't want to talk about my partner. And we had this conversation, obviously, you know, it's not about him. He was the light. And I know this could trigger some people. He was just the beacon to shine the light on this continuous problem that I was not seeing, and I was never going to change. And actually, I'm grateful now for that situation. And that's been really hard to kind of get to that healed place to say it. But I am, because I now know I can look back, and I've had quantum healing. I've been visiting my inner child wounds, all the stuff of the lack of love and affection, attention that I needed as a young girl is all that I have to focus on today to kind of help me, and also clients that I'm helping. So for me, it's getting back to that school, that really young, gorgeous group of young, innocent people, and getting people in front of them to be like understanding what love is, you know, really educating on warm, healthy love, not the love where my mum says I've got to do this and I'm a good girl because that's how I behaved and I'm going to do that, but really having the support of, okay, this is healthy love, this is what it looks like, this is what it should feel like, and educate from that place very, very young to try and make a difference. Because otherwise, you know, I don't support the groups of the abuse where it's like he's done this and he's done that and this, she's done this, she's done that, because it doesn't actually change anything. The patterns are set. They happened when we were all before 7 years old without us even realizing, and our parents don't even know. I never would have this conversation with my dear mum because I love her so much. But I wouldn't be able to say to her, oh, you didn't do that. She doesn't even know. You know, it's us breaking the cycle now and changing those patterns for our children. And how do we educate now in the school systems? Because the only thing I needed to learn, which I do now have, and I've just got back from my month in Bali, so I'm very happy. I went for a month away for self-love, and I didn't know what self-love was. Even that, it was an education for me. I thought self-love was ugly. Honestly, I saw it as people taking selfies of themselves and I look amazing. And I saw it as a really kind of a conceited thing. So like you love yourself. You love yourself was a negative term that was, you know, obviously in my environment. Well, then that was taken away. So now I mustn't love myself because that's got a negative association. So now I don't love myself. Now I'm going to shut down, and now it's not an attractive trait. So what I'm trying to say is that all I've actually finally learned to do is I understand self-love is a very beautiful inner peace of just honoring and loving every single part of yourself. And I didn't get it. I thought it was an external, conceited. So again, there's just so many, this is why I'm so passionate with this, because there's so many elements, and only now I feel far more educated and compassionate and understanding of me, not for the people that do, you know, they know what they're doing, the behavior is not acceptable, but there's just, it's not in them, they're not going to change, it's for us and the people that have experienced it or are experiencing it, where I think the opportunity is. So it's quite passionate, but I've learned so much more recently, and I didn't get it before. I was just going through life on the same stuff all of the time, and I would have kept going. That's why I'm grateful, and I can say I'm grateful because I'm 52 and I hope I've got 20, 30 years of much more nicer, real love relationships. One. Thank you.
Thank you so much for wow, bringing this expansiveness here, and just your beauty, your, you know, honoring your process, and just taking all those steps, whatever you had to take in order to realize, okay, he was the light for me. And in this stage, like you are in this higher consciousness where you are able to see yourself from up, and that's the state which is
So just one more thing I want to add, because I was stuck in the cycle of, I mean, luckily I have a daily diary, so I videoed myself on the journey, and that was very, very healing. And because I have compassion naturally for everybody else, and I never really had compassion for myself. So by recording myself, it was easy for me to then have compassion for that poor girl who was a mess. And it was me, but I related easier by removing that, you know, just detaching myself. So I was the observer to be the empathetic approach. But so it has been a really, really beautiful journey. And it's how do we get there much, much sooner to have helped that younger version of me, of all of us, to recognize that actually, when you love yourself, you won't be disrespected. When you love yourself, you won't, you know, you're going to give yourself everything that you need, and you're not seeking external resources, people, environments to fulfill you. And I didn't understand that. And that for me is where the biggest opportunity is. If we know that all we need to do is, not in a conceited way or, you know, a bad way, just really take care of ourselves. I think a lot of this would be healed very quickly, because all my friends that are healed, and, you know, naturally say to me, I would never have been in a relationship with a guy like that. No, you wouldn't, because you were in a healthy home with healthy boundaries, with healthy lifestyle. I wasn't. So I think it's coming back again just to really help us find that place to show people what healthy really looks and feels like. Because when we've already said it, a number of us, when we're raised in a home, the norm for that person is healthy, because that's all we know. We don't know anything different. So I relate so much to what everybody's said already, because it is normal to us. And I'm going to put myself on mute because I'm a bit passionate. So.
Well, there was a moment in your life you were thinking about podcasts, so so there you go. You can.
And a moment in my life, as you know, I didn't want to be here in 2020. You know, I couldn't manage anymore. So it's also just acknowledging and being proud of myself for that transformation. Because when we met initially, I wasn't this person. I wasn't this version. You know, I literally decided when I went to Bali, I was going as Joanne, and I've come back as Jo 2.0, because she doesn't exist anymore. You know, any guy can come here and there's red flags all over the place. Come on. Come on. I'm ready now. I'm ready. But it's only because I've got my eyes wide open and I've got the knowledge now that I just didn't have. But thank you, everybody.
Is it J2 you mentioned?
J 2.0. Jo 2.0
Okay, J2
is my new name.
Oh, welcome, J2.0.
Thank you.
Nice to meet
I
you.
was trying to change it on the screen, but I can't. But yeah, no. It's just also a switch. It's a mental switch. I need triggers to change things. and having the same name carries the same past for me. So by having Jo now, because I don't understand why Joanne is when I was being told off, so I've actually been using the name. That's been the negative for me. So now I'm Jo, and Jo's a lot softer, and I'm much, I'm just going to carry that forward.
So yeah, there should be in the participants 3 dots, and you can click there and see change the name. The participants, no, maybe not. But it's but we can feel your energy, and that's what matters, really. Well, and what you just brought, it opens the doors for my next question. I'm also seeing Stephen. So if he wants to share, like, how do we open up the doors for unconditional love? How do we feel good about? How do we teach ourselves the unconditional love if we never experience it as a children? Yeah, and not necessarily
So
we have to find the answers here, but just holding that space. How do we do that? I would like to, yes, and I'm open for any ideas. And yes, go ahead, and I will mute
I
myself.
just wanted to compliment everyone that has spoken so far, and I really celebrate Jay's time in Bali and everything that she did to experience that, because when you grow up in an environment that allows you to be susceptible to narcissistic or toxic type of behavior, most of the time you're taught that looking out for yourself is selfish, right? That you're being bad, that you're being selfish in that regard. And the other part of it is that your energy level is low. So it's very difficult to see and to experience, because we start off with this big ball of energy, and it's very passionate, very engaged in life, and then all of a sudden over time, the interactions will lower that energy. You'll start getting picked at. There'll be moments that you can probably recall if you're in a toxic type of relationship where it's almost like a gut punch, where something will happen and it's done almost to knock you down, almost to bring you down a level, and that happens over time. And it's my theory that really the love comes from us in the beginning. The love comes from the person that ends up being the victim, and it's reflected back by the partner. And then over time, with that wounding, the victim quits putting out that love, and then the less love that's put out, the less love that you see reflected back. And so all of a sudden that love will just diminish over time. And so part of this journey is to recognize that it's the need for love that allows people to be manipulated. It's the need for something, and I really believe that we can create those things. So it's this idea of, if we can actually create the love that we're seeking internally, right? If we can become the person that we wish to have in our environment, then we'll notice what's going on in those other areas. So it's what I'm trying to share is it's a difficult journey. It's almost as though it's like a child learning to walk. Learning to set boundaries is not easy, because it will feel awkward. It'll feel that you're doing something wrong. It just won't seem right. And what my thought is that we need to become responsible for our life, and that we have to say, how we're being treated, how we're feeling matters. And even if we're wrong, we don't have all the information, it's okay. It's knowing that how you feel it is important, and to find a way to work through that. And one litmus test, I think, for the relationships is, because it's hard. You can be in a relationship with somebody that, well, what if they're not like full out narcissistic? What is the question? What is the litmus test for a relationship? In the one that I came up with, that I talk with the people that I work with, it's you know it's this idea of being responsible for your life, being responsible for this journey that we're on. And so at some point you're gonna have to ask yourself the question, are you better off? And I gave myself a year, and it's like, whether it be 1 year or 2 years, um, ask yourself the question, am I in a better situation now? Whether that, and it's your own metric that you choose. are you more secure? Are you more financially, you're better off financially? Do you feel healed, right? Are you healed in some of the things that have gone on in the past? Do you feel like you've grown? Some way that you've improved. If you have not, because if you're in a toxic type of relationship, all of your energy will be go to try to support that person, and you'll be drained. And so you'll end up being less than in the end. And so that's the question. Are you better off than you were a certain amount of time before? Are you better off than you were a year ago? And if you are not, then you really have to take an assessment and say, is it time for a change? And so with that's the question. But again, it's this learning process, because when you start off on this path, the messages are out there, but you don't see them, and you'll grow in maturity, you'll grow in awareness, and then once that switch clicks, once that new neural pathway is built that says, hey, this is not the way that I should be treated, then you'll recognize, okay, there's something here, and then you'll start seeing reaffirming or supporting messages everywhere that'll say, you deserve better than this. Oh, I wanted to add one thing, Anastasia, and it's this idea that make a choice, right? Like choose better. For myself, I hit a milestone birthday, and I realized I wasn't happy. You can choose what you want in the future, even if you don't know how to get there. So myself, I wasn't happy. I didn't know what happiness was, but I just made this choice and a commitment to my life that I would be happy in the future. And so I think that that's important. It's recognizing the power of your choice, and then noticing what you take in, whether it be thought or emotion that adds to that feeling. So you're always trying to grow in an area that's in alignment with what you want to be, how you want to live your life.
Anastasia, one of the
Thank you,
I don't know if
Stephen,
you
for
can,
being vulnerable. Thank you. Yes, Paulette.
there was a one of the children that I counseled, and I can say this because it was many years ago, but they were given a leaflet in school, and it was about abusive behavior, and the leaflet was about hitting, it was about shouting, it was about are there lots of arguments about money, and it had like 6 or 7 points, and they had this teacher come in, and so separate from the school, so she had no knowledge or relationship with any of the children. And it wasn't until the dad hurt the mum in front of the little boy, who was 11 at the time, and he'd just gone to senior school, and he'd received this little bit of paper, and he'd kept it. And that in itself is a message, that he'd folded it up and kept it in his blazer. And he took that piece of paper to the bedroom and cried, because he realized that there were several things on that bit of paper happening in his house. And he went downstairs and he attacked his dad. Now, he was a very young, very small little boy, but when you're not expecting it and someone runs at you and catches your balance, the dad went over and he sat on him, and he was very specific. He said, once I got him down, I didn't know what to do, but I got him down. I got him away from my mum, and I told him I got this bit of paper. And apparently he was reading off this bit of paper to his dad while sitting on his dad's chest, telling him that you are this person. And it was the mum hearing her son tell the dad that you are this person that made her phone the police. And that ended the abuse. It ended the relationship. It ended the child's. It didn't end the child's trauma, because there was so much to unravel, and there were 2 sisters, and it was a very religious family. So there was all kinds of connotations about breaking up a family. But the bottom line was that it was the solution to a horrible situation. And when you talk about this unconditional love, children have unconditional love for their parents, and we expect parents to have it for us. And when there's that disparity, if you're told that's how it should be, if you're explained that's how it should be, when it isn't, it becomes clearer to understand, because you can see there's something different. I can't put my finger on it. I don't know exactly what it is, but there is something different. And I was so shocked that this, and when I say weedy, I don't mean that disrespectfully, but the lad probably weighs 6 stone and his dad probably weighed 14. But that shows you the power of the mind, because he'd read, it had explained to him, and he knew what love was supposed to look like. That's powerful.
Well, but also no child should ever go through it and do that justice. There is no case which that should ever happen. So how do we? I would like to bring up this question. How we have 7 more minutes to the end, more or less, before we show the documentary, which is the 55 minutes. But are there any other? And it's okay if not, but just holding the space. Are there any other ideas on how can we feel good about learning like unconditional love? Because somewhere it feels like it starts with us, yes. But yeah, I'm curious. What's your experience on changing those, and what helped you the most to do those shifts? Those are shifts.
Can I share again, as Anastasia? Is that okay?
Yes, for me, if everyone, yes. Just
Yeah.
want to make sure.
There's a hand that we haven't heard from yet, Anais. Should we
Oh,
go?
no, Anais is eating. I think she's okay.
Oh, but the hand's up.
Oh,
Okay. Do you want to try there first because they haven't spoken?
Hi, I have a very short thing I want to say, because as I have maybe in this group and other groups, I talk about how we use language carelessly. And when we speak, language has power and it has energy. And so I'm curious in this group, what does the word unconditional love, what do those two words mean to you? And I think that term, unconditional love, can become a trap. And in my work with clients and as a coach, I see many women and men believing that they're offering unconditional love, that they want to give unconditional love. And they end up being caught in circumstances of self-sacrifice and self-sabotage, because they don't recognize the difference between what we call unconditional love and authentic love. I think we may need some new language here. I've just seen this so many times where unconditional love is the answer, and it's not. There has to be a finer filter than the term unconditional love. So I'm just going to toss that out there and go away.
yeah, I think it is important, yes. But before I respond, I would like to give the mic to Joanne. It is important to question what's unconditional love. Yes, Joanne.
I think that's a very valid point, actually, just to add to that, because it is an empty word. They're empty words unless you understand the meaning behind them. So I can completely relate to your point. And, you know, for me, unconditional love, my unconditional love was my mum, and it isn't, you know, it was conditional on terms, on conditions, on restrictions, on disciplines, on guidelines, on her expectations, you know. And an example, I do want to keep saying about Bali, but just before I went, I phoned my mum. It was only 2 weeks before I went, to say I've booked my flight. And you know her exact words to me? You're naughty. When I heard that, I was like, I now know how I've been raised, because I didn't get approval for that decision. I booked it myself, but I'm 52 and it was still happening. So the point you were asking to make comment on before, what have I learnt? It's really just taken me all of these years to unfortunately get to where I am, Anastasia, and it's been a whole lot of, you know, becoming a trauma-informed coach. I didn't understand how trauma was impacting me, that all the things that happen in our childhood, I didn't know that we have to reface those and, you know, connect with that and heal those wounds. It's been literally revisiting every single part of me, transforming every single thing that I can, looking inside for everything. I was always looking outside. I never made a decision without checking on somebody, because I've been learnt to kind of lean out for guidance. And so I was indecisive, procrastinating. I was everything that wasn't serving me. So the thing that I think has been the most beautiful part of my journey that I would love to share is just really learning that it was the trauma-informed coaching of the one thing that I had therapy for 15 years. I was talking through the relationship with my therapist. It didn't work for me, because validating the experience was just a word, you know, okay, so I'm right, but it didn't actually change anything within me. And so it was the same thing that, okay, this is right, but I didn't know how to heal it. And so the one thing that I would say is the most powerful transformation that I personally had, which was why then I became a trauma-informed coach, is I didn't know what was repeating these patterns and how to stop it and how to heal it. And now I do. So that for me would be the thing that's the most powerful change that anyone can take care of. And trauma is in every single one of us in many different ways. My sister, raised in the same household, very different, solid marriage, 25 years, absolutely perfect, you know, in every way. I'm very different, so it's in my makeup. But it's nice now, because all I was getting was that rejection again from when I was checking with my sister. Do you find mum like this? No, she didn't. She was a different individual. For me, it was very, very, very much about me, and just needing to understand that trauma, how, and I love it when you give that example, if two people are in the same car crash, come out, one can be like nothing happened, and the other one can have a life full of, you know, of nightmares afterwards. And it's really understanding and giving people the space to talk about what trauma means, feels, and is to them as an individual, because trauma is different to every one of us. And somebody, you know, even in my court case, it was like, oh, don't worry about that. Why are you still worrying about that? It was adding to my trauma, instead of somebody saying, why do you feel like that? Keep asking questions of everybody else instead of telling us what to do, is my personal opinion. Because I've been told all my life, and now I understand that actually if somebody had listened to how do you feel, why do you feel like that, and maybe engaged in conversation, it may have been a better way to allow me to express myself and understand that. Then back to your gorgeous point, Anais, of unconditional love. That for me is unconditional love, when you can hear me, you can see me, and you can feel me as a person and every part of who and how I am.
Yes, I love that.
Big hugs to you.
I think there's like a book here with so many AI, so we can just, you know, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. The power of finding your story. No, I just thought about right now as I look at Asta, the power of having your gift and then, you know, using that as a roadmap for your
I mean,
life.
can you imagine how beautiful it would be if, instead of us telling that's a red flag and dictating, it's who are you, and coming from the inside out, who are you? Express yourself. Tell us what you love and what you don't love, how you feel. It would be then that inside out, a complete flip of everyone telling us what's right and wrong still, and actually just like, who are you? What do you need? How do you feel? And allowing that person to express themselves.
And how can you know how to make any decisions in life if you are never taught about or ask how you feel?
I mean, listen to the silence. It says it all, doesn't it? In that beautiful silence, we're all, I'm sure, in total agreement there.
But yeah, I'm just curious about other shares or anyone else like to add, share. I want to include everyone, but thank you, Joanne, for sharing that.
Astra's got a hand up.
Oh, yes. The screen, oh, my screen. I need to fix this. Okay, thank you, Paulette.
Is this me? Sorry.
Yes, that's Asta, and
Yeah,
then
sorry.
Steven showed me that Steven had raised his hand too, so that's what I saw.
I really want to come back to a nice, beautiful words, because I am the same. I am very, very, very always saying, listen what you saying yourself. And universe will give you what you're saying. But the funny trick, universe can't hear word no or I don't want. Universe always see your energy. And when I see around my country and people and men, all I was saying, I don't want alcoholic husband. And all this was biggest energy, what I don't want. And what did I attract? He was not alcoholic, but he became alcoholic. So I am so, thank you so much, Anais. What's so important, what we putting our energy, like, because energy, what we attract what we are. So if I don't love me, I will attract someone who will not love me. So I would go back in the same, find love in you. And like I said, thanks God for my power of fashion. I was loving what I'm doing, and I really loving what I created. So thanks God for that. That love stayed in me. So that was my love for creation, but came from me. And I love this unconditional love, but if we can come back, all condition was for me. I was like a trophy for my ex first, and then I got in here in Ireland, I become another trophy because I was a model. And every man only was looking for me as a trophy. So condition was, and I'm meeting so many women who actually having this condition. As soon you are young looking, as soon you are beautiful, as soon you are still that one what I married, I will love you. Am I right? Is anybody, get to me and, connects with me and, thank you. And that's where it really comes from, all this millions and billions industries of Botox and all this to keep us women down and keep us younger, to really to stay in this condition. And then we say, oh my God, my husband went to a younger because you didn't kept your condition. But younger, that's not mean skin younger. I am actually now screaming, become younger from inside. Activate your young energy, dancing, be young girl. And like me being 49, nobody can tell me because I'm crazy, As normally when I see on my age generation before, they would be just, bags, shopping bags, parents, husbands, that's it, kids. If I would say for my mom, let's go have a dance without alcohol, she would say, you're joking me. You know, so anybody agrees with me? Anybody agrees with me? Let's stay young from the heart, from our energy. Let's not let anybody, and I think that's where it comes. And youth and beauty and really knowledge, because more we knowledge, we're starting understanding, but we are young, we don't know. Nobody teached us. So again, can we go back to schools? But at the same time, again, it's kind of one more opposite. No, I would not listen any of you if I would not get my own experience. We need them. I don't know, do we need to go and tell everybody, listen, honey, he's not good for you? They will not listen. This is their own journey. All what I feel we need to do to show example what it could be different. That's all I think our job is. And if you feel, why my life is so down, and she's like crazy dancing and happy, and I was singing on the weekend, my voice is gone, like, you know, speaking and teaching people and not teaching, really showing, you know, what it could be other way. Everybody come to me like, what are you teaching about? You know, then they say, I want what you have. I don't know what on what pill you are. And that's, I think, our job is, as helpers, as teachers, as all, be example what they want to become. They don't want to hear our stories yet if they're not ready. They need to go through their own journey. And I was told as well, you need to do some healing. I'm like, what is healing? I'm fine, you know, till I not get to my point where I was not fine. And I built in 3 retreats, just like Joanne, well done, girl, till I got my points, you know. So I'm all for it, but I think all we need to be is examples what it could be different way. And thank you so much, Anastasia, for talking about this. It is different way. It could be different way, but we need our journeys and we love them. And yeah, sooner we wake up, it's better, but it's our journey. And I love every bit of it. Mwah. Thank you so much.
Thank you for bringing this radiance energy. I just feel like I'm again in my 18 years old.
Exactly. Let's be young with a little bit more voice than me. Oh my God.
But
Speaking gig was cool in Germany, and that's why my voice is gone. So yeah, definitely.
and it's all of that. Like I feel that's the what you mentioned. Yeah, the conditioning and how, especially there's, yeah, I just shortly will mention this kind of pressure on women to be a certain way, whatever it is, Botox, you know, slim, whatever it is, skin, hair, all those products. There's not many products like that for men. So just watching it, how much there is on TV, you're bombarded. Nobody asks you for permission really to be exposed to those things, but you're unconsciously, you're like, oh, maybe I need this. So you feel not enough. And that's, you know, really how to take away a power from woman to make her feel she is her body. And then when you are able to achieve that through, you know, media and just kind of conditioning, then yeah, that's a way to keep, you know, away the whole planet, I feel like, because the feminine energy is the planet, is the nature, and you know, it's all connected. And then you see different things like hurricanes and volcanoes coming like poof. Well, that's our energy, that's our rage coming out. Yes, we are coming to the service. Like you know, pushing it. And you can laugh at me, but I truly believe that's we are energy. And if we are not able to accept the fact that we are all connected, even if we don't want to see it, it doesn't change the fact that, in at least in my perspective, that it in this world I am living, it exists. So from my side, if I might have the permission to ask anyone watching us on a replay to, yeah, just please, more of it, more of that radiance Asta spoke about, more of that feminine safe energy of being together, us women, men. That male energy is so important when it comes to manifesting. Yes, we need all of that, that kind of dance coming out of it. Yeah. Well, and as we're getting to the beginning of the movie, I also just like to keep the mic open if anybody wants to mention anything for the last, I know for the last few minutes. I know there is also Marisa. Hello, Marisa. Thank you for joining. Marisa joined us a few minutes ago. She's one of the 88 participants. Christine, thank you so much. And okay, my screen changed. Okay, all right, you can see Marisa. Hello. She wanted to wave to us. All right. All right, then I am able to share the screen and start the. Oh, Marisa is talking. It shows me. I don't know if you guys can see it. Marisa? Oh, she disappeared.
Hi, Anna.
Hi. How are you? Where are you at in your mind?
I'm doing good.
Oh wow.
Actually getting ready for a parade.
Oh wow.
And so we're gonna be. This is Elaine. She is who I work with. She was my counselor when I went through the program with the behavior health, and I work alongside with her. So I always do speaking engagements with others, and I continue to share my story. So this weekend is the Navajo Nation Parade. So we're getting ready to make a little shack on this float here.
Wow.
And so, yeah, so that's what we're getting ready to do. And I seen it was 3 o'clock, so I thought I better jump on and see what you were up to.
Wow, that sounds like you guys have been working all the morning when I was sleeping. So thank you for your work.
Yeah, so we're excited. We're like I said, we're getting ready to do this, and then next week, Thursday, I have a speaking engagement, which is about maybe 2 hours going towards east. Dulce. I'm pretty sure you remember where that's at. Dulce, close to Tucson or Tuba, where you were at.
New
Where were you at?
Mexico. New Mexico,
Yes.
Farmington.
Yeah.
New Mexico.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So I'll be somewhere on the east side.
Indian
next week.
reservation. Is it Indian reservation as well, or?
Yes, yes. It's part of the another tribe, but it's still on the Indian reservation too. So
Yeah, there's so much, and good to see you, Elena. I think that's the name of your consultant from the past. I think I met her before,
yeah,
and you,
Elaine.
Elaine. Yes, yes, yes. I'm glad you are both there. Thank you for your work. Yeah, I appreciate that energy of hope, because yeah, that place needs to have a foundation. There was a shelter which has been for domestic violence women, but then somebody for some reason closed it, and so there is a lot of need for this kind of institution to be there for those whoever needs the help to have a safe space to go. And that's what Marisa is doing with those events, big events, to raise, I think, the money for opening one of those. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all. So I see Sheldon. Is there anything you would like to share, or you came on the camera? Good to see you. Oh, the sound doesn't work for some reason, but you are unmuted. So maybe it's the Bluetooth. You can turn off the Bluetooth if you want. Oh, okay. And when he is trying to figure it out, I saw Asta wanted to say something. No, I thought, okay. All right, so as I am concluding, I wanted to close the open panel with what Joanne mentioned about, oh, you are naughty, like that comment from her mother, which was a betrayal. It was a betrayal because it was like, after so many years, you still don't see me, mom. You still don't see me. Wow. Right where we started. Wow. But then, yes, we honor somebody's process, but it doesn't change the fact that we never were allowed to fully express our feelings and emotions in a safe environment in a way that it wouldn't be punished verbally or physically or energetically. And I think that's what unconditional love somewhere you try to express, and what it means for me too. It's just somebody holding that space of, you can be whoever you want to be in this moment, and it's safe and it's welcome. Yeah, that's from me. All right, well, see the hearts. Thank you all for being in the open panel. If anybody needs a break, going to the bathroom, I'm going to figure out the technical stuff. Now it's the time. If anybody needs some break, or grab another glass of water. And I also saw your comments, Sheldon. Okay, yeah, we have your comments here in the chat, so thank you for your contribution. All right, we'll share the screen. I'll share the sound. All right. And if you guys, when I start, if you can give me a hands up if the sound will be there. I didn't start it yet, so don't give me now. Okay, and as I said, if there's any point in the documentary you feel, oh, I didn't say that today yet, but if you feel triggered or disassociate in a way which you can say by just not knowing what's happening and feeling like, whoa, forgetting where you are, please give yourself that space to leave or walk away. Go take a walk, ground yourself, take a few breaths, grab a warm cup of something, listen to your favorite music. You can do some tapping, anything, to first, because it's important for me that you feel safe and good. All right. With that said, enjoy. This is not only a story of those 88 people, but this is a story of so many of us. My name is Anastasia Gajkowska, and when I left my abusive relationship, I wanted to create a movie, a film, a documentary where I interview not only survivors, but thrivers. I mean, people who left abusive relationships and they're really thriving now. I flew to Hollywood to learn the art of making films. I asked 8 questions. This documentary is a sample of combined stories. I use my laptop camera, my phone camera. Many recordings you will see in this documentary were filmed by survivors in their own home. All our participants decided to share their story voluntarily. 88 stories, one soul, one voice, one calling for the whole humanity. Hi, welcome back. In this expose episode, we are going to talk about different types of abuse: emotional abuse, psychological abuse, spiritual abuse, financial abuse, physical abuse, digital abuse, and sexual abuse. Enjoy.
We had kind of the American dream, right? We had a house and 2 kids and 2 cars and a job, and on the outside, the world looked great. You know, everyone, we were like this perfect family, and on the inside, it was a completely different experience.
And steadily, it got worse and worse and worse.
Most people don't understand emotional abuse. Even a lot of therapists and doctors don't understand it, especially when it comes from a narcissist. So when we have a girl or a male that goes into a therapist's office and says, I'm having problems in our marriage, they're not being treated as victims. They're being treated as people who are just not getting along with their husbands. A lot of times they're not believed, they're not heard, they're not validated, which just compounds their confusion even further. Because now they really don't know if they're wrong or right, even though it feels terrible, because nobody is telling them the answers, answering the questions that they have, and they're actually treating them like they're participating in the abuse, when really what it is they're emotionally abused and they're trying to react to their abuse and they don't know how to deal with it.
Domestic abuse was such a strong word that I wouldn't have ever thought I was in an abusive relationship, and only through time and education and the internet, you know, you start to realize it actually is all of those things.
Domestic violence isn't something that's just physical. The emotional warfare and the mental drama that you go through is just as bad, because those scars end up staying with you long after a physical bruise heals, right?
So if you find yourself in this weird cycle all of a sudden, where things are really hot and heavy, and then all of a sudden there's some kind of shift in the relationship and the person starts changing the way they see you, that is a huge red flag that you're dealing with somebody that's not healthy. It's a cycle of abuse.
It's always the cycle of love bombing or hoovering, devaluation, and then the discard, because, you know, we can't keep up with their unrealistic perception of reality.
Our most core fundamental human need is to feel accepted within a tribe, which is why most attachment dysfunction come from feeling rejected from your tribe. And at the core of all human experience is the need for safety. What makes that child feel safe with his mother is that the mother tries to attune and respond to the child's needs.
You are someone who never felt seen. You've learned that in order to survive, you have to focus on other people to feel safe. So you're externally focused. Lots of times, those of us who have a lot of empathy didn't experience a lot of empathy in childhood. We give everybody empathy because we don't want other people to feel the way we felt as children.
People who tend to be the target of a narcissist are people who often are highly empathetic.
Let's say we've come from a physically abusive system, but this new partner is just verbally abusive, right? Like, that can feel better. Well, at least that person doesn't, you know, physically hurt me.
Emotional abuse means manipulation and degradation, like gaslighting.
So I didn't know what emotional abuse was. And emotional abuse is really hard to wrap your head around because it's very difficult to detect unless you're exposed to it or educated on the topic. And so I didn't even know I was being emotionally abused. I just thought I was in a bad marriage and I didn't know how to fix it.
Emotional abuse is about power and control, and it's about dominance. right? It's about power over. It could look like being told what to do all the time, right? It could be isolation, like starting to move you away from your friends and family members because, you know, at the end of the day, the reason they're doing it is because they don't want the friends and family members influencing you away from the person who's trying to control you. But they will say, you know, oh, they're just bad for you, or they're not really good for you, or they don't have your best interests at heart. Emotional abuse is any systematic wearing or cutting down of the self, right? You come into a relationship with what you feel like is a strong self, and over time it just gets more and more whittled away until you feel like a shell of yourself. That's emotional abuse. And it you know, a lot of times we talk about it in terms of like putting you down, like why are you going to wear that, or you look fat, or any of those things, right?
Definitely emotional abuse where your mind is affected is one of the worst stuff. There's no proof as well. If you have a bruise, someone can say, oh, you've got a bruise on your arm, how come? But if you say, they told me that I'm fat, do you think I'm fat? No, my ex said that. They say it like 1,000 times. That voice is playing over and over and over.
I thought I looked really good. And he said to me, you look like a whore. And I said to him, that really hurts my feelings. That's not cool. It's like, oh, you're just too sensitive. Like, really, get over it. You can't take a joke. I was kidding. I was completely kidding. If you can't take a joke, what's wrong with you?
And sometimes he would just rage, just inches from my face, and tell me all of the horrible things that still wake me up in the middle of the night. I don't really think you're that scared. And then it's, I'm sorry. And then after a while, it wasn't even, I'm sorry anymore. I just want to be mad. Why can't I be mad?
Psychological abuse inflicts mental anguish through manipulation and coercion, like threatening self-harm to manipulate a partner.
And then, you know, he would tell me things like, you know, you'll never leave me because, you know, we made you what you are today. If it wasn't for me and my mother, you wouldn't be where you are. So don't even think about leaving. So a lot of times when we would go home for the holidays, I would hate it because he would always want to, or he would say, we're staying by my mama, and she already has everything ready. You know, this is where we're going to be until it's time for us to leave. And I thought that was so unfair because my family lives in Louisiana also. And he was like, you know, they know where we live, where my mom lives, you know, let them come over there by her. And it was just, yeah, the control was from him and it was from his mother. So I remember in counseling, one time the counselor said his mother is a puppeteer, a puppet master, and she is calling the shots because they would have discussions about things. Instead of he and I discussing it as a couple, like buying furniture or a car or anything like that, he would already have had the conversation with his mother. Nothing was something that I had chosen. Everything was about what they wanted and how they wanted it to be. And I just had to get in line.
He was not letting me do things that I used to do, like the things I love to do. I love to teach fitness. He wanted me to stay home, and then when I try to go do at least grocery shopping, he's already asking me when I'm going back. And then that was just like he was preventing me to do the things I enjoy. You should do this and do this. You're not making money. Don't let me work then. Well, you're not making enough. You're not gonna make enough. You know, so it's always like belittle and that I am just an immigrant and that, you know, it all these things. I said, okay. And I was just like observing that the things that makes me happy is a waste of time and it's a waste of money.
He wouldn't let me feed myself. He goes, no girl of mine feeds herself. I feed you. So he was like feeding me. And I thought, my God, that's sexy. That's incredible. And I got sucked in. he was crying, oh, I don't want you to leave. So I never seen that side of a man. He called me every day. He sent me letters every day. I wasn't allowed to eat, by the way. I wasn't allowed to eat my full meal. And he pointed out the dessert. He said, oh, there is a lemon meringue pie. Look at that lemon meringue pie. And I go, wow, lemon meringue pie. And I picked it up and put it in the cart. He went nuts. And this little old lady walks by. She goes, dear, she heard the whole thing. She goes, is that your husband? I go, no. I go, no. She goes, oh, when he becomes your husband, he'll be 100 times worse.
It's just, it was constant. Who you with? What you doing? Who you with? What you doing? No, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not. And the best part about it was I did not obviously be with anybody that whole time. And when I came home, when I came back from Australia, I did try to break up with him because all my friends were like, enough's enough, you can't, this isn't healthy. I was like, okay. And I broke up with him. This was the first time, and he was just very, very good at that. I'm sorry, I know that I'm insecure, I won't do it again. My ex cheated on me, she hurt me. And it just carried on. And I actually found out while I was in Australia, this was months going forward, I actually found out that he'd been dating someone while I was in Australia, while he was calling me saying that I was sleeping with X, Y, and Z, and he was on dates with other people. And I laugh about it now, but Muggins over here, when she found that out, of course she took him back and took him back and took him back. Yeah, the red flags were in my face from get-go, but I just had hope. And he also said that he'd been hurt so much in the past, so I really did sympathize for him. I got it, I understood it.
This particular morning, he had become very irate that I hadn't checked in with him, and he showed up at my door about 15 minutes later and barged through the front door and went into my room and started acting very paranoid, looking under the bed, behind the curtain, in the closet, accusing me that I had been with somebody else, that I had stayed home to be with somebody else. And the more I tried to reassure him that that wasn't the case, the more irate he got and red in the face. And it was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, because, you know, these things were building over a period of time. But again, I missed them. So this behavior was like, whoa, where's this coming from? And so he came up to me as I sat on the edge of the bed, and he said, you know, I knew you were too good to be true. And then slapped me so hard that I saw stars, and then stormed out. And so I'm left there with my face hurting and trying to figure out, what did I do to make this happen? Like, could I have done things better? Should I have called him to let him know that I was staying home? And then I caught myself and I was like, no, I told the truth. Like, he should not have slapped me, and, you know, I'm done with him. And at that point, I thought I was done, and I didn't take any of his calls until like the following Sunday. He showed up at my house when I wasn't home with a bouquet of purple flowers, my favorite color at the time, and said, left these 24 roses. And then when I came home and I saw them, I turned on my phone and there were a slew of messages from him saying how sorry he was, how apologetic he was. He wanted a chance to explain. And seeing these flowers, hearing the voicemails, reading the card that he had left with the flowers, I'm sorry, I love you, I miss you, call me. I called him back. And when I called him back, he was very apologetic. It sounded like he was very tearful on the other end. And I accepted that apology. Even with that apology, he diminished some of the blame about what had happened and placed some of it on me. He said, I love you so much that you made me act that way. The thought of you being with somebody else just drives me insane. And so, it's you. It's you for me that makes me act. And so I took that. What else do you do when you're 21 and it's like, okay, maybe I should have called him. Maybe I went about this wrong. So I took that apology, and that then turned into almost 2 years of verbal, emotional, and even more physical abuse. until I reached my breaking point. So, during the relationship, it was very heavy with the jealousy, the paranoia, the no trust in me. I was always asked to be here at a certain time. If I didn't show up, he would think that I was doing something with somebody else. I couldn't stay too long on the phone with girlfriends. Any guy friends that I had, they were null at this point because, why are you talking to guys? Like, they're going to try to pick you up and flirt with you. Why are you talking so long to your girlfriend? She doesn't like me. She's gonna try to woo you away from me, and I don't like her. She's single. She's gonna try to get you to get with another guy. I mean, it was just a level of distrust that I always tried to circumvent with better behavior. So stop talking too long on the phone. Wear my skirt a little longer. Wear my hair a different way, not talk to guy friends. And so it was all of me making, compromises to make sure that I didn't do more to harm our relationship.
I was gaslit by a past partner who had cheated on me, and I, being psychic, would have all of these dreams that he had cheated on me, and I literally was tortured by them for 3 years. And every time we would talk about the dream and we would analyze them together, he would always bring it back to, well, you were sexually abused as a child. So that's gaslighting. Instead of him taking responsibility and saying, I know why you're having these dreams, and let me tell you what happened, and I'm so sorry, which he eventually did.
It's because he wasn't even in town. He was in Washington, D.C., and he had made this elaborate plan to kill himself. He had taken $400 out of our bank account. And I kept calling and calling. It was like, where are you? What's happening? And then he calls me that he swallowed so many pills, but he changed his mind. So we made him throw it up. After that, it didn't matter what happened. I just didn't want him to die.
The mind games that he was playing, tracking my mileage on my car, just because I would take the car a couple of miles up in town to go get milk and bread, etc. He would literally write the mileage down before I got into the car, and then he would run right out and check the mileage on it after to make sure that I didn't deviate my path and that I wasn't out cheating, that I wasn't out trying to report him. I was not allowed to go places unaccompanied, usually without him. So if I did, my mileage was tracked.
Isolation, like starting to move you away from your friends and family members because, at the end of the day, the reason they're doing it is because they don't want the friends and family members influencing you away from the person who's trying to control you. But they will say, oh, they're just bad for you, or they're not really good for you, or they don't have your best interests at heart.
When he would get mad at me for talking to my mom and my family, like wanting to spend time with anybody that wasn't him or him approved. That was my first red flag, when he started isolating me even more than I already was by moving to Iowa. Away from Florida, away from my family, away from my friends where I didn't know anybody. He started isolating me and getting mad when I would talk to people from Florida.
I would call during my lunch, or if I was on break, just to be like, hey, what's going on? I wouldn't get an answer. And sometimes I'd make it off a little earlier than expected. And, I would come home and he wouldn't be there. And he wouldn't answer his phone. And, around the time that I would normally be off from work, or he would know that I would be, soon to arrive, he would show up and he'd be like, oh, you're off. And I'm like, yeah, I tried to call you, what was going on? Oh, well, I was on the phone with my sister, or, I was talking to my mom, or, I had walked up to the gas station and my phone died. And I'm like, but you're sitting here with a charger all day. Like, you know, what do you mean? So those were the first red flags that I began to notice. You know, it just seemed to be, I couldn't prove it because my primary focus was work, but it just seemed to be a bit of dishonesty going on. So I'm thinking inside my head, I don't believe you. I really feel like you're full of it, but I don't really have the time nor the energy to investigate this. So I'm just gonna believe what you're saying as far as, you know, your phone died and that you love me and there's nothing to worry about. I only got a job, you know, I'll help him get a job and everything. And so, you know, he began to get back on his feet and make money. And so he began to become very, like I said, arrogant at that point. Once he started making his own money and his own means of income. And then it got to the point to where it was like, you know, I'll get off from work and I don't see you till the next day type of scenario, or I don't see you for several hours and, you know, I'll call you, hey, what's going on? Where are you? And you cuss me out, you know, you get mad, you know, like, or, you know, you come home and you just, you know, you just intentionally start an argument with me, so that way you'll have a reason to storm out of the house and leave and not come home for a few days.
I have recordings of him recording himself, giving me permission to take his car, to take his kids, and to get the fuck out. Just go. You can hear me begging in the background. You don't understand because I'm right here. The intervention's gonna happen in 2 days. He stole my shoes. My shoes were gone. I fled my home without shoes.
Spiritual abuse involves exploiting religious beliefs to control or harm others. I was 19 and the person who I was with back then was convincing me to go to the church because that church was supposed to be closer to God and any other church is just bad and I will go to hell if I don't go to that particular church. So that person was trying to make me feel guilty for not obeying his idea of what I should believe in. And I grew up as a Catholic and I went to Catholic church for, you know, like 18 years of my life. So I just remember being so confused when this person was bringing Bible to my hands and telling me, you know, that God sent him to change my life, and he literally said that, oh, God sent me to change your life, and if you reject me, you will reject God. So I am this angel and you are full of demons and I came here to pray for you and all my tribe in Africa is praying for you, and if you don't open your heart, if you don't go to this church and do everything what I tell you to do, you will go to hell. So that's a huge, you know, spiritual abuse and as well psychological abuse, because we can see how this person was trying to use the authority of first, you know, big church name and saying that, you know, you need to obey everything what I say because I'm part of this church. Then we have also diminishing of my own system beliefs. That person didn't want to listen what I feel it's right for me. So we had also, you know, gaslighting, where this person is telling me, no, your reality is wrong. The only one reality and true is what I think.
He picked up, I was over at his house and he had picked up a quarter, threw it across the kitchen, and it went into this big vodka bottle that he had. And this vodka bottle was thick. The glass on it was, I mean, it was probably about that tall, and the glass was super thick, and it shattered by this quarter that he threw. And that, I said, I'm leaving, I'm gonna go. And he said, if you leave, this relationship is over.
Physical abuse includes any form of body harm, from hitting to pushing.
He had already told me that he was completely comfortable killing me. I did not have any kind of safety or comfort.
Is tonight the night that he kills me?
I would go to work black and blue. It's time we get into an argument. I could die. The last night we got into an argument, he was on top of me. He was choking me. And I didn't think I was going to get out alive because he was choking me so hard.
Shortly after I found out I was pregnant with our first child, my ex-husband had gotten very upset about something and shoved me onto the bed. And at first I realized, I was like, oh man, I really don't like this. This isn't okay. And I was like, well, maybe it was just a one-time thing though.
And so that's not so easy to get out of because we're in denial. We don't no longer trust our instincts. We no longer trust the way we feel. We've ended up defending the narcissist to our friends. We're like, you're losing yourself, girl. And the narcissist has convinced us that if our friends talk to us that way, we need to cut them out of our lives because they're jealous of our relationship or they're trying to get in between us. And so now I push my friends away and I end up defending the narcissist. So I'm just getting lower and lower and lower.
Financial abuse, restricting access to resources like controlling finances in a relationship.
He used to take all of our money and spend it on drugs.
I was financially abused, so he left me in about £30,000 worth of debt. So I'd straight away become a single mother I was working full time, but obviously I had all this debt that I then was left with that I had to pay.
Right when we got the place, he made sure all the bills were in my name, and then he just quit. And then I was stuck with him for 3.5 years not working, and I was the one that was supporting him.
Part of my past relationship was about financial abuse, where I can give you behaviors which I experienced, which we can include into financial abuse. So control of my bank account. So that individual wanted to know exactly how much I have on my bank account. And each time I made more than 10,000, I had to give him 10%, just because he felt like he was the one who shared with me the idea of saving money, so he has the right to have 10% of each of 10,000 I made. Secondly, I wasn't allowed to quit my job due to the money I was making. It was really a good money-making job, and he felt like I shouldn't quit a job which gives so much money. And this way he also, was making sure his financial status was doing well, because I was, by that time I was paying him for rent, I was paying him for the coaching sessions, he was charging me for plus, I was paying fees for not fulfilling his desires, like washing a floor. If I didn't wash the floor, I had to pay $60, or if I didn't do certain duty I supposed to do, I had to pay him a fee. Digital abuse misuses technology for control or harassment, such as monitoring someone's online activity without consent.
Because he had hooked up my phone and my computer and everything. And it was all backing up to his Google account. He knew everything, everywhere I went, every site I visited, every person I talked to, every plan that I had, everything. I didn't know you could do that. I had to burn emails I've had since high school. My daughter's email that I created for her when she was born. Because every time you log into them, they start backing up any device that they are attached to. Even if I go in and I say, no, don't back up my photos, if I put those email accounts on my phone, they will back them up and he'll see everything. He knew everything I was planning.
Sexual abuse means any unwanted sexual activity, including coercion or assault.
I had to go to bed at a certain time, and I had to have sex with him so many times a day because that's what he needed.
We were climbing into bed. We had gone to a wine tasting party, and he said, "Sweet Pea, I think I've done something that's going to make you really mad." And he showed me an exchange that he had been having with another couple, where he offered me up to have sex with them without my knowledge and without my consent. And I said, "Oh, no, I'm not mad. I'm livid. It was expletive filled. Get out of my house." And I, the kids and I debate this and we laugh about it. I don't know whose voice I heard, but in my one ear, I heard, "Shh, just be quiet. Just be quiet right now." So instead of like launching a full tirade and interesting, he's still playing the "of course this is you" card. He's like, "Oh, I knew you were going to be upset about this. Like, really, you're going to be upset about this?" Yes, I am. You gave these people my picture. You told them where I lived. You told them what I did for a living. You told them where I was going to be when I traveled so that they could go check me out. Yes, I'm mad about this. I'm really mad about this. Until that, the voice was, "Just be quiet." And he said, "I'm leaving my computer out. If you want to, I don't think I changed the passcode. See what you have." And he ended up falling asleep. That's another trick of an abuser, right? Go ahead and check everything out. There's nothing there. And you think to yourself, well, he wouldn't say that if there was really something there. So I'm sure it's just me, because you've been conditioned to think it's just you. And so when the offer is made of, go ahead and check it all out, there's nothing, you think, well, if there was really something, he wouldn't leave his computer out, and he wouldn't. And how many times had he done something like that? Go ahead and check it out. It's legitimate. And I never did, because I believed him. And because, well, that's just you, Caroline. You're just being emotional. You're just looking at this the wrong way. I did that night. Got his computer. For 8 years, he had been sending people messages, giving them my picture. For 8, all of the emails started out with, "My girlfriend has no idea I'm doing this." I found that he belonged to a group that taught men how to drug their girlfriends or their wives and then arrange situations where other men could come over and rape them while the husband or the boyfriend watched. That was his extracurricular activity. I found out that while he presented himself to me to be a monogamous heterosexual, he was actually involved in group sex with men and with women in our homes when I traveled, when he traveled. I discovered 8 years that from the very moment that we met, he had been doing this. And I also discovered there were nights I did not remember. Nights that I only found out about because they were on his computer. Nights where he would say, "Get dressed up, get completely dressed up. I'm taking you out to a fancy meal. We're going to celebrate us. We're awesome. You're incredible. Get dressed up." And he'd take me out to my favorite steak place. And meanwhile, he would have conversed with 3 other people to be at the same place to check me out, to be able to facilitate what could be done to me. Again, all without my knowledge and all without my consent. So between me running to the bathroom to vomit and coming back to the computer and finding more, and think about that, had I bought into his usual, check it out, you're not going to find anything. Had I not gotten up to look, I would never know. I would never know. So I couldn't figure out, he uses a Mac. I could not figure out how to work a Macintosh computer. I didn't know how to print things off. So I just started taking screenshots, pictures with my cell phone of the emails. And because I wasn't sure what all I was seeing and what I was uncovering, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm crying and I'm vomiting and I'm hoping to God he doesn't wake up, then I couldn't get everything. I mean, it was 8 years of history. So I took as much as I could. I put his computer back and I crawled back in bed. And the next day when he went to work, I just imploded. I imploded and I started making lists, and I thought, I don't know how I'm going to escape him, but I'm going to have to figure it out, because at that point I didn't know who all he had set me up for. I didn't know. I was afraid to eat or drink anything in my house. I was afraid to eat or drink anything he gave me. I wasn't sure. I ended up in the hospital. My heart ended up stopped beating for, I think, 21 seconds. And they had to end up surgically implanting a battery that monitored me and monitored my heart, because, again, we didn't know, was I so stressed out, or had he given me something to harm me that made my heart act odd.
There's a fragmentation of the body, and this especially applies for sexual abuse, by the way. There's a complete disconnection from the physical body because it's our protection. How can we possibly be connected in the body if our beautiful, sensitive, fragile, highly exquisite body is being treated like that? Of course, there's a fragmentation and disconnection.
So let's talk about rape. And I'm in this position of having my hands on my hips because I feel like anytime somebody says rape, we feel threat, especially we as a woman, we feel threat in our stomach, in our belly. We don't want to talk about it, we don't want to listen, it hurts. Okay, I get it. And the story I have to share it's probably a story which many of you experience as well when you have been victimized and obeying somebody who was maybe older than you, who was using his age and authority or status to make you feel safe, who maybe groom you, and later on after you trusting them fully, completely, they make a move. And that move was totally planned from the very beginning. And in my story, it was sexual assault when this person asked me to take my underwear off and sit next to him. And I totally froze. I literally probably couldn't say my name. I just couldn't believe that this person I trusted so much and I treated him like my father was asking me to take my underwear. So it was, I think, what it felt like was a betrayal. But I did everything what that person wanted me to, just because of the cognitive dissonance. Like I couldn't believe my own eyes. And after all, that person asked me, after all, I asked that person what it was. And he said, nothing, I don't know. I just feel like hugging you. So, back then I was a virgin. And it was my very first time with somebody who never asked, who demanded and make me feel like I had to do whatever he asked me for. Because before that, he prepared me to be really submissive to his actions and rules. And he trained me to know that if I don't do something, there's a punishment. So you can see here how that dynamic works. And what I really want to say is that most people believe that rape is something what, you know, harms your body. And I believe that it harms your soul, your spirit, your energetics. So that's why I believe by speaking it out, we release that part of trauma. We transmute that into a message of hope. And that can really have a huge impact on our own healing and liberty, freedom, and on someone else's healing. And yes, it feels frightening because we have been conditioned to be silent and don't talk about it. So the moment we speak about rape, it's like we are opening doors for another women and men who have been inappropriately touched without their consent. And if you are someone who experienced that, I would like you to use this safe number and share with somebody who is qualified to give you more information on how you can get help if you need it.
One counselor, she was pointing out to me all the different ways that I was living in an abusive marriage. That was the first time I had ever heard the word marital rape. First time ever. I was in my 30s and I was so unaware. I had the mindset, the belief that because I was married, attached, not married, because it turned out our marriage was never legal, because I had that mindset, well, he's the man. I'm supposed to be submissive to him. I let him do whatever he wanted to, against my wishes. If I didn't want to have sex, it didn't matter. He did anyway, as well as would cheat. And what brought it to the end was it wasn't far after they started talking to me about marital rape.
Most people think that physical violence is the only type of abuse and is the only type of abuse that is recognized by immigration law. However, there are other type of abuse that are non-physical and they are recognized. It could be emotional, psychological, power and control, financial. Isolation is one of them. If your spouse or abuser doesn't let you to talk to other people and justify it with something else. Oh, we don't have time to go see your family member. Let's go out with my friends, not your friend. Or even survivors working, they don't have access to the money that they are earning. They have to hand over to the abuser. Sexual abuse. I'm gonna call immigration on you to deport you. Actually, no one can deport a person, only immigration judge. Knowledge is power. And that's my personal mission.
We are the friend of someone who's trying to leave an abusive relationship. The more I tell that person to leave, the more anxious that person's going to be. And now they're insecure even more. So what happens to them psychologically is they default to the person that they think makes them feel secure, which is a narcissist. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we educate ourselves and we know as much as we can about this person's fear of what's going to happen next. And let's face it, there are narcissists out there that are physically Like our fear of being hurt is real. Our fear of a narcissist hurting our children is real. Our fear of a narcissist destroying our reputation, destroying our business, it's real. Our fear of being financially ruined, it's all real. So our fears are not invalid. In fact, they're valid, but we stay because we're trying to avoid that potential. And so if a friend comes along and says, oh, you're in a bad situation, you should leave him, I'm only going to freak out even more and secure myself with him even more, because that's what makes me feel safe. Because if you try to validate a narcissistic abuse survivor too quickly, they won't believe you, because the narcissist has conditioned them to believe that they're the narcissist, they're the problem. And so you have to be very gentle when dealing with a narcissistic abuse survivor, so that they can start sharing things about their experience, in their time. And I think sometimes as friends of narcissistic abuse survivors, we just want to hoorah and pat them on the back. They're coming out of a fog. It doesn't feel natural to suddenly be validated after so many decades and weeks and months of being invalidated.
A wszystkie kobiety, które dzisiaj słyszeliście, są dowodem na to, że ta zmiana jest warta tego, żeby ją podjąć, i warta jest tego, żeby o siebie zawalczyć.
This was an experience that actually helped us learn how to love ourselves better.
Everything isn't happening to you, everything's happening for you. We don't have to get trapped in the past story. Instead of believing that we're broken and wounded and nobody will ever love me, we need to shift that perspective and say, no, I'm a warrior. I survived the unthinkable, and now I am stronger and better. I have gone through it, and I've come out even better than before.
Someone else out there is living our life. Someone else out there is living the life that all of these survivors and thrivers have escaped right here, right now. You can pick up any newspaper, you can go online to any news outlet, and you'll hear about mostly women, some men, but mostly women, who are killed by their boyfriends, who are killed by the children of their father. You hear it all the time. And so there's someone out there right now that is living your survivor story. And when you start speaking, you give that person hope. So suddenly, with the hope, they start to have this idea of choice. And that is really possible. That's where you can really help someone create great impact in that person's life, and if they stay on the path, they can then in turn create great impact in their life. They can end generations of trauma. They can end generations of codependency, generations of women and men picking the wrong partners and staying and not understanding what's going on. And I think that is so encouraging, and that's why you do what you do, because you want to encourage people to awaken and to take ownership over their life in a powerful way and to tell their story.
You just don't know what people have gone through in this life to live, to stay alive, to breathe, to not cry, to hide their laughter because someone else doesn't want them to laugh. Someone says, oh, well, blah, blah, blah has happened to me. Immediately take a breath and say, what if that were me? How could I handle that?
Your reality can change. Who you are can evolve. You need to focus on love to access the reality of who you are. You need to embrace love in your life.
But that's what we're missing in this universe. It's love. And that is the antidote to hate, crime, pain, depression, anxiety, and hurting each other.
Thank you so much for watching this episode, and please join us with the next one, which is all about the aha moment. The moment when all those 88 thrivers decided to leave the abusive relationship they were in. See you soon. Bye. Could you do me a favor and share this episode with at least 2 of your friends? Thank you. Remember, together we can make a difference. If this episode resonates with you, please go to exposenetwork.com. You will find the link below, and we would love to learn more about you and your story. You can thrive and you can be happy after an abusive relationship. Do you have a story to share?
It's night in the city, and I'm on my way back home. Humming on my favorite ditty, swinging like Natalie Cole. But then out of the blue, who strolls down the boulevard but you? Your place is closer than mine. Why don't we go there and have some more wine? 'Cause life is for living. Let's see where the sun might lead. Let's see where the sun might lead. Waking up to a brand new day in between your sheets. Breaking up in the best of ways, and I'm back again on the street. Ooh, but then out of the blue, a wind starts blowing in ways so new. A world more exciting than mine is holding up a great big welcoming sign. Life is for living. Let's see where the sun might lead.
So the
Hey, we survived. Oh, there are some people who are not sleeping and it's like the middle of the night there probably. Uh, but thank you all who stayed. Crystal rejoined, but then she left. Thank you for coming, all of you, and watching on YouTube. We have also people on YouTube. There were some comments and shares around what we spoke. Is there anybody want to bring any light, any hope, any new solution, or what came for you? Like, you know, if something was missing, you're welcome to share as well. What would
I just think congratulations. I'm going to support Stephen's comment to you, Anastasia.
I didn't see it. Okay.
It's amazing what you've created, and the voice that you're giving everybody. It's going to make such a difference. I'm really, I'm sorry if this has been my first one to join. I apologize for that. I think it's outstanding.
Well, the perfect timing couldn't be more perfect. So it's all good.
I'm going to say good night and goodbye. I feel like I really want to go back to bed. So
Yes,
good night.
thank
It's been a
you.
pleasure to see you all again. And Anastasia, you should look in the mirror and give yourself a pat on the back, because seriously, someone has to take the lead, and it couldn't have been easy. So well done, you.
I would like to share how what you've created, good night, is different from 2 years ago with the Me Too movement. This is substantially different. And I really celebrate the perspective that you chose to take, the way that you organized this information, because you shifted it from being a celebrity problem for women who are in the film industry to something that your next door neighbor's kid is going through. And that, I think, is so much more powerful and has so much more energy, because it really, it's, you're not elevating it, you're grounding it into the lives of anybody in the world that can be going through this in any language. So kudos to you again. I learn something new and see something new and meaningful every time I watch. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for co-creating the space and just, yeah, just being together and not agreeing for certain things to continue existing. I think it's so powerful. That's why, the live shares are, I do believe there is some energetic power in just us being together here. And just like our ancestors used to gather in front of the fire, share their stories, and it's kind of that spirit of this is not okay, and being together with it. But I see people are falling asleep as I am speaking, and it totally makes sense because it's like 2 a.m. there. So and I said 2 hours, so we are over 15 minutes over. But I like to hold some space for anyone who just would like to share anything at the end. Thank you, Stephen, for your comment. Thank you, Sheldon. Thank you for all the comments in the chat. Thank you, Crystal. Yes, you asked me, and I'm just seeing it now, if you can share with Charles the Zoom link. Yes, you can. We'll be finishing in a few minutes. If Charles would like to join, Charles is watching on YouTube, but I would like to read Sheldon. Sheldon, are you here? Would you like to speak? Would you like to try to see if the mic works? I would like to hear your voice, if that's possible. I can speak. Okay, that's okay. Do you want me to read your comments, or? Oh, the mic doesn't work. Okay. Okay, well, yeah. Okay. Okay, yes. All right. So we'll read your comments, and I'm just checking if we are briefing. Are we still all briefing? Because it was a lot of to process. And I recommend strongly, after we finish, everyone does whatever they need to replenish the good yin energy. Whatever. Sleep is great. So you guys that you are in the zone. But so Sheldon says, oh, Anais, would you like to read it, or I can read it? Would you like to read some of the comments?
I can read it. Sheldon says, thanks for sharing. We are surviving. We are survivors. We did more than just we survived. True that. So. Oh,
you're muted, Anais. Yeah.
That's okay. I keep doing that just as a good hygiene. Sheldon also says, you're all stronger than you might realize. Great. So shall I go up and look for some other?
Yeah, maybe one or two more. Yes, because they're all important. I want to bring them.
Stephen's comment. Thank you, Anna, for creating this work and movement. You are a force for good. Stephen also shared, it is so sad that the selfishness of a person can cause such harm. May anyone who has experienced this recognize they did nothing wrong, and that we all wish such unkind actions did not exist in this world. For sure. And see what else there is here, going further up. Well, yeah, Sheldon was at a cafe. That didn't work out today for him, but Sheldon also says, which is really interesting, unconditional love can be seen as a trap when it's misunderstood. If people believe it means tolerating mistreatment or sacrificing their own well-being, they may stay in harmful situations. So I do think unconditional love gets thrown around and we're not clear about what that actually is. Feeling good about learning unconditional love comes from knowing that it strengthens our relationships, improves our mental and emotional well-being, and creates a more compassionate world. When we offer love without conditions, we tap into a powerful source of peace and fulfillment that positively impacts every area of our lives. That's also true. And I want to ask, how does that translate to a 6-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old? When we go further with this, we will be teaching children that young what true love is and what unconditional love is or is not. This is possible to do. That's my comment. Okay, see if we've got anything further down towards the end here. That's it. I think that's it. So, well done, everyone. And let's take care of the kids.
Realizing that we are all kids sometimes. And well, thank you. Thank you all for thank you, Anais, for reading it. That was so nice. I was like, yay, when you said yes.
I know sometimes the Polish translation, that when you're tired and that could be a lot. So happy to do that for you.
Yeah, and that felt good. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Sheldon, for all your shares. They're all welcome. And I hope we read them all.
No, Sheldon says he has more. Let me go further back because he says wonderful things that we all need to hear. So let's go back. This is prior to the break. I'm going back, Sheldon.
We are going back for you.
Yeah, I'm holding on to my cursor and finding where you have shared something else earlier. We did cover the unconditional love. Oh, there is ignoring boundaries. Let me go back there. Okay, your unconditional love comment isn't about enduring abuse or ignoring boundaries. It's about caring deeply while maintaining self-respect and holding others accountable. It's crucial to balance love with healthy boundaries to avoid being taken advantage of. Yep, or doodle. Let's see if there's well, I think we covered this one about unconditional love.
And then there is this one, the first one, I think, the greatest challenge.
I might not have been on then, so yes, I might have missed that one.
The greatest challenge in domestic abuse is not always what it is seen, but what remains hidden. It's about unmasking the subtle corrosive patterns that can often be mistaken for love, care, or protection of finances. Too, right? Domestic abuse isn't always about physical violence. It's also about the control, manipulation, isolation, eroding one's sense of self-worth. Recognizing these red flags early is the first step toward breaking free. It's time to stop overlooking the warning signs and start facing the truth head on, because every life deserves respect and dignity, free from fear. Dignity. That's the word. Dignity.
That's the word, dignity. And again, this needs to be learned by very young children at a very early age. And so as younger and younger people are getting involved, and I know a woman who's a Montessori educator, and this is one of her goals in Montessori education, to include this kind of information with very young children. And again, it has to be handled delicately, but handling it delicately is better than not handling it all.
Yes, yes, at least some kind of form of saying, naming it for what it is. Yeah, and you give that sense to that child that this is not okay. That was one of the experts in expose in episode 9. We're going to be talking about how children are impacted by the cycle of abuse. So those are the stories of adults now who witness the abuse in their home. Bye, Sheldon. Good night. Thanks.
I have a request, Anastasia, because of the nature of what I'm up to this week. Would you please, and I don't know, maybe some other people need this, send me an email with all of the information for the next session so that I have plenty of time to share it, and also include the YouTube link for your channel where you're sharing these wonderful panel discussions so that I can share that as well. That would be so helpful.
Yes, thank you for asking. I can definitely do that. And if you are watching live and you would like to be part of the help, you can also leave a comment. I will, you can leave your email. But yes, I can definitely do that because there is, 15 episodes and there will be second one coming in 2 weeks. The first day after this first day, and it's going to be about the aha moment. The moment when all the 88 decided to leave. Because you hear so many times, why you didn't leave before. So I felt like, making episode about all the whys, which is, so deeper than just, just come on, leave. Like, just make it happen. So I feel like that can bring more understanding for all of us to realize, the depth, the depth we are dealing with when we are so far, because those are the years being in those cycles many times. And honestly, like the research shows, the longer we stay, the more dangerous it is. The risk of being killed actually increases 60% after we leave. So the fear is real. And if we have children, then it's like, wow, what about their lives? Are they saved if I leave? Oh,
Do
yeah,
you wanna-
music.
Yeah, no, it's my hands, I'm tired. I do want to go back to the distinction that I really think is important about what you have created here and the energy of the Me Too movement, and not to say that that should have been done any differently, because it was people coming forward in an environment where they were speaking up. But when you're looking at, my choice was, I put up with the abuse or I lose $100,000 in a movie part. The equivalencies are really different. And I think that what happened in the Me Too movement, absolutely, those women should never have had to go through that. But that shows so much of the transactional nature of these dynamics. And I think one of the things that is helpful here is that you're really describing a bigger landscape where it's not transactional. It's not about, I was going to lose a job if I didn't. That's extremely conditional. And what you've touched on really goes much deeper than that. So I think it's important that we notice that.
Yes, and thank you for bringing that to the space, because I realize the rage we are talking about can be so much different but connected, and also in different cultures seen for something else. So yes to that too, because yeah, can you imagine reality when when you just that threat of you reporting somebody who has that authority to destroy your whole career you have been working on, that's thought is threatening, and that's why so many people don't leave. And it's actually, I recently was talking with someone who experienced that in military environment, that's the same kind of threat, but in military too, where even though it's the different environment, the dynamics is very similar, and it has to do with the power and also the money, because of somewhere there's that kind of tide of like, yeah, if you don't do this, then I'm going to take away this, and then whoa, you could do that. Like, yeah. So yeah, so what's next? All right, well, thank you for just being here. Thank you, Steven, Marisa, Mirka, and Anais. Thank you. I'm not sure if maybe it is not always about having those answer right away, but just having them and here being in the space, it's all matter, and we see that, recognize that as not being okay, and we don't agree with that. So thank you all, and it's 3:33 on my clock. I think it's a time for break. You have a great the rest of your day, night, and as I said, if you experience any triggering or some memories from the past, you can message me, reach out to me, but also remembering that you can do some tapping and breathing, that some things can come up later as well. But I just want you to know that you are not alone, that especially when you're watching us on YouTube, that please reach out for help. Yes, please reach out for help. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Bye. Now, I wanted to add that hotline number, but I don't remember now. But I think you can Google probably the hotline number in case.